Hey y'all, this is Ichi, and I know this is not Wazesha Wednesday, but yesterday, Wazesha Wednesday, I wasn't able to make it because I had some stuff to do with organization that I hold really close to heart. It's a community organization that I had to organize some stuff for, and so I wasn't able to do Wazesha Wednesday. So today's not Wednesday, today's Thursday, but we'll call it Wazesha Wednesday. Even though it's Thursday. Hi everyone. I know I'm not on screen, but that's because I'm presenting something, and for whatever reason, I think Facebook doesn't allow you to present something while at the same time show up. So you'll just have to hang tight as I walk through what's on my mind today. So a couple of weeks ago, I sent out a notice that said, Wazesha Academy, a no BS approach to increasing your value worth. As you know, for the last year and a half, I've talked a lot on Facebook Live about trying to understand what your value worth is, trying to understand what F.U.M.B.L.E is about, and all that has been in an effort to try and help everyone who listens to achieve their highest potential. And so today I want to dive a little bit deeper and talk about the new thing that I've been working on, obviously for a really long time, but very recently launched when I started talking about a no BS approach to increasing your value worth. So I had some really good Google Meet sessions last week. I had one on a Tuesday and a Thursday. Some people were not able to make it, but I got a lot of pings about what did you talk about? What is the special sauce to a six-figure income? Where do we get started? What do we do? So I thought, why not present it in a Facebook Live? And so that's why I am here. So, what is the special sauce to a six-figure income? A lot of people talk about mindset and getting your mind right and vision boarding and all of that. And I really love that and I appreciate that because that is very important. Other people talk about skills, the skills they go to school. People spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a skill set that allows them to earn this six-figure income. And that's good as well. Others are able to figure out how to strategically articulate their value worth, and they come in, they're able to be interviewed and to really do good interviews and are able to get this six-figure income. And so, thinking about all those three things, this is what I posit to you all. The special sauce to a six-figure income starts with increasing your value worth. I've talked about value worth a lot. And again, what I mean by value worth is the perception that the other person has of the value of what you're offering them. Not to be confused with self-worth. Self-worth is the feeling that you have about yourself and your worthiness, which is very important. But that contrasts sharply with the perception that the person has of the value you're worth to them. And so the most important part when we're talking about six-figure incomes, when we're talking about people being able to get jobs in this market where there's so much uncertainty, the most important thing is to be able to articulate your value worth. And the three things that are required to do that is skill set. You must master a value creation skill set. That means your education can be really good. You can be the best software engineer. But if you're not creating value for me, then there's something you're missing. The second thing is your mindset. You're going to go into a very competitive environment and you have to be able to fumble your way to success. Those of you who've been with me for a long time know how passionate I am about fumble. You have to face your fear, get unstuck, manage your mindset. You have to be bold, you have to lead, and you have to execute. That's a mindset thing. So we have to go behind the brain and figure out what are those things that are stopping you from being able to articulate yourself in a way that projects your value worth to someone who's willing to pay you that six-figure income. And then lastly, strategy. And I'll talk a lot about it and give examples. Strategy is being able to think through what is it that I need to do, say, to articulate my value worth. For most of us, we say, let me get my skills, Let me work on my mindset and everything else will follow. That does not work. I've been through a lot of promotion committees, hiring committees, and the people who are able to be successful are those who are able to strategically articulate their value worth. And that's another thing that must be done in combination with mindset and skill set to help with a six-figure income. So I call that SMS. So value worth is really a function of SMS, skill set, mindset, and strategy, because that's going to help you earn more, achieve more, and especially with AI, stay more competitive. So let's kind of walk through what this means. Um, so after I put the no BS thing out on Facebook, I sent out a survey and people responded. And here's what the survey said. So the people who responded said the most important thing for them right now is to increase their income. That, I guess, is obvious to all, but it's good to be able to quantify that that's the most important thing for people when they read the email that I sent out or the Facebook poster that I sent out. Then that was closely followed by learn a new skill, which was interesting because presumably a lot of people have spent a lot of money to acquire skills. But what I get from this is that that skill is not enough for them to get that six-figure income that they're looking for. There were a few people who wanted to get a promotion, a few people who wanted to change jobs, and they realized that there are so many people out there offering classes, offering sessions, 12,000, 5,000, 18,000, 12-month, 9-month, 8-month skills that you only get 10%, 5% of that to be able to actually make a significant difference in your income. And then others wanted to prepare for or learn how to go for an interview, how to prepare for an interview. And that's really important because, again, I think most of us think, let me do this and it will be obvious to the person who's hiring me. But no, you have to prepare for and learn how to actually be in an interview to be interviewed. The other thing is to keep winning at work. You have a whole new generation of people who have come in with these skills that you're probably a dinosaur for, right? Like some of us are finally learning what Gemini does and how to use Gemini, while others are what I call AI natives. That's even beyond digital natives. So they know this thing, so we have to keep winning at work. And this was probably the most special one for me, is to gather information to advise my kids. Listen, here's the thing. Your kids are graduating from college right now. They have computer science degrees, they have computer engineering degrees, they have mechanical engineering degrees, electrical engineering degrees, all these degrees that you've paid so much money for. But do they have the special sauce that's going to guarantee them a six-figure income, and the special sauce that will allow you as a parent to worry less about them because you know that they're going to be in a good job, in a great place to work, and will stay competitive. And then lastly, people wanted effective networking. Networking is part of that strategy. So it's really, really important that people understand that effective networking is important in earning that six-figure income. So that was pretty interesting. Breaking it down a little further, people were curious about why most people are okay with average salary. And that one was very interesting to me. And I think there's probably a number of reasons. But one, people haven't figured out how to actually fulfill their potential, right? Adam Grant talks about hidden potential and how, we think sometimes that it's nurture that makes us, or nature that makes us who we are, but he talks about nurture. That means there's some things you can tweak to who you are to be able to sort of break the barrier, and in this case, the barrier of salary. People like to learn. That's a very interesting thing. We often grow up saying that once we're done with school, we're done. But people like to learn. They want to know the new thing. What's the greatest thing that's coming out? How can I be able to earn more money by learning something new? People love money. People love money. People love money. And not just because they want to worship money, but it's in support of being able to take care of their families, being able to take care of themselves, and again, most importantly, to be able to get paid for what you have done, and to be able to reach your potential and in so doing, be able to be compensated accordingly. I'm sure it's my cousin who said, because you're family and I love you. So it was interesting that, hey, Teresa, good. Thank you for putting that out. Provides me an opportunity to gather more information on how to guide my son who is going to college. I'm in between job opportunities, looking for to land a new fulfilling role. I'm ready for a challenge. I want to level up. I'm inspired by your goal to normalize wealth instead of struggle. That's another interesting thing where we think that creating wealth, or in this case increasing your income to six figures, means that it's an outcome of you struggling. But I've been in corporate for over 30 years, and I've seen some people who are just seem like they're really calm and cool and not struggling, and yet they're getting that six figure income. And then most importantly, more knowledge. A lot of people want to get more knowledge, so that's very important. So how do you do this, right? I sent this one out when I talked about my daughter Chelsea talking about money growing on trees, and this is the average income in Atlanta. And what is interesting to note over here is that the average mean wage is 64K, which is a really, really good wage compared to other cities, which are much less than that. And compared to, if you look at the 10th percentile wage, it's at 26K. So clearly, there's some people who are making something like in the $20,000 range. The average person is making 64, 65. And then on the 90th percentile, you're finally getting to the six figures. So you have some people making $117,000 in the 90th percentile. But don't be fooled. There's others making 200,000, 250,000, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, $800,000, and yet it's not like they're running their own businesses. That is actually the total comp that they're making. So looking at the stats, I want you to think to yourself, how cool would it be to go from 26K to 64K? And how much cooler would that be to go from 64K to 200K? Does 350K sound appealing to you? How cool would it be to do that? So here are some other stats from Glassdoor. And this, I'm just looking at program managers, which is a very fungible role. That means that you can apply it to many domains that you may have learned, or technical training that you have learned. What that means is that basically, let's say you went to college to be an electrical engineer. Well, you can be a program manager in electrical engineering. Let's say you went to college to be a network engineer like I did. You could be a program manager in network engineering. What if you went to school, you're technically trained in finance? You could be a program manager in finance. What if you went to school to be a software engineer? You could be a program manager in software engineering. And so I use the program manager role because it's a fungible role. And by the way, it's becoming more and more popular. And when you look at the high tech companies, like let's say Google, you're looking at a median income of 352K. You're looking at people making close to 500K. Same as in Meta, Facebook, same in Amazon, you're looking at over $300,000. Microsoft, $250,000 a year, okay? NVIDIA, 270K. And there's people making six, seven, $800,000 a year because of this program management skill set that they have. The question then you ask me naturally is, no, there's no way. I mean, how can a program manager be making that amount? And so what's on the left, I want to draw your attention to what role profiles look like in program management. So there's some people who in their program manager title do execution in partnership. That means you give them a set of tasks, they do it, they follow it, they use the workflow to get tasks done. They're coordinating all these efforts, they're getting things done. Perfect. That's a role. You may not make 500K there, but you're making significant amount of money there because you're bringing people together toward a common objective. When you get to independent execution, now you are leading some massive complex projects. And independent execution is certainly going to give you a higher salary because you then are leading complex projects. You're bringing multiple people together from different organizations, and you're basically shepherding them to meet an objective. And that's a significant role for someone to do. Now, as you expand your impact, the yellow circle is about leadership. Now you're managing, because look, you cannot continue running multiple complex projects. At one point in time, you have to turn around and be able to delegate them to other project managers, other program managers. So here you have expanded impact and leadership, and that makes it worthy of the high salary that you're getting. And then even on that same role profile of program management, you have people driving strategic programs. That's 5 years plus. That's sitting down and mapping what the organization is going to look like, what the company is going to focus on. So imagine being the person who's responsible for driving those strategic programs. That person in blue and the person in red may have the same fungible title of program manager, but because of the blast radius that they have, their salary is going to be different. So moving right along. So when I say skill set, what does that mean? Beyond the skill that you've learned in school, the technical skill you've learned, engineer, computer science, supply chain, logistics, computer engineering, business administration, finance, accounting, graphic design, interior design, that skill set is absolutely important. What I am saying is, in addition to that skill that you have, which I will call the domain skill that you have, is the value creation skills that you need to get that high income. And those value creation skills are program management, process engineering, and leadership. Again, you went to school, you learned a particular skill set. It was accounting, finance, computer science, logistics, engineering, business administration, graphic design, interior design, water treatment, construction management, whatever it was, whatever degree that you got. I've been an educator for almost 20 years. I love school. And I think everyone needs to go to school to the highest level of education they can have. But what I'm saying is, in addition to what you've learned, is a focus on value creation skills. And those three value creation skills are program management, process engineering, and leadership. What is program management? It's value creation. Value creation by aligning multiple projects with strategic goals. It's handling what's called the triple constraint, which means being able to bring people together through the complexity of deciding, is the scope going to be larger or smaller to meet the schedule that we're trying to hit with the cost constraints that we've been given. Being able to program manage allows you to create value for the company, because this program that you are managing, this bringing people together, and this closing in on a project is going to increase your speed to market. It's going to reduce the amount of time, the cycle time for you to get things done. And in doing so, it's either going to increase the chances of revenue or decrease the cost of the things that you're spending a lot of money on. So companies really love that. They love people who can come in and talk through what program management is and be able to program manage, project manage, portfolio manage, whatever they've been given, using best practice to be able to go from initiation to close. So that's skill number one. Skill number two is process engineering. And what this means is, you look at a process from end to end, you figure out what are the value creation steps that are important, and using those value creation steps, you lean out the process so that you can reduce cycle time, you can reduce expenses, you can improve the customer experience, you can differentiate competitively, you can increase productivity. And the Six Sigma part of it means that the same experience, the same outcome is experienced every single time. I always talk about one of my first jobs in the US. I was in fast food. It's not like I owned or managed fast food. I was actually the guy at the window saying, "Hi and welcome to Carl's Jr. May I take your order, please?" And I remember when I started, we had those registers where you had to punch a key that had was labeled hamburger, then you had to go to the one that says add, then you had to go to the other key that says special sauce that said onions, right? So that was the way an order was placed. And I remember very well when the register turned to a touch screen. And then suddenly we were able to process credit cards. And I said, there's no one who's ever going to give me their credit card to process their fast food. Look at us now. You walk into a McDonald's, you don't even talk to the person behind the cash register. You go to a little tablet looking thing, you place your order yourself, you pay for it, and the food comes out as consistent as it was 30 years ago when someone was making it for you, at the same time taking your order, at the same time punching those keys on the register to be able to check you out. Process engineering, Lean Six Sigma, that's the second skill that I think is important. The third, and probably the most important, is leadership. Value creation by setting a clear vision that aligns team efforts with strategic objectives, e.g., OKR, objectives and key results. No matter what people say about technology and how it's taking over jobs, etc., the most valuable resource is people. Being able to be efficient in the allocation of these people, being able to motivate them, encourage them, uh, push them for innovation, push them beyond the boundaries, enhance productivity, performance manage them, create a work environment where they can perform at their best. Leadership is key and is the third part of the skill set that I think is important in value creation. So, going through those again, when we talk about the first S in SMS skill set, I'm talking about program management, process improvement, and leadership. Moving along, mindset. The M in SMS is mindset. All of you have heard me talk about F.U.M.B.L.E. What does F.U.M.B.L.E mean? F.U.M.B.L.E is we have to face our fears. Oftentimes, someone has a skill, someone's gone to school, someone is highly qualified, but there's all these things that stop them and do not help them get into that mindset. I like using mindset all the time. Mindset where they can get this six-figure income. So we've talked about F.U.M.B.L.E over the last year. F is face fear. You have to acknowledge and confront anxieties. You have to know that no one should ever tell you don't be scared. Being scared, having fear is part of evolution. That's the way you survive. But what you can do is face your fear. And there's two ways, there's many ways, but the two that I always talk about is exposure therapy and learning. Exposure therapy means expose yourself to the thing you fear the most in small doses until you can actually do it. And then learning, can't say enough about it. We talked about skill set. Once you learn how to articulate yourself in a way where you can seek promotion and seek that six-figure income, once you learn the program management, process improvement, and leadership skills, that allows you to face your fear. The second thing is getting unstuck. People get stuck because they think there's only one way to the end. Success is not linear. You have to identify the root cause of feeling overwhelmed or why you keep hitting your head against the wall. And sometimes it takes you sidestepping to get to the end. Again, Adam Grant talks a lot about it in his books, his podcasts. And I think it's important for us to understand that, one way to get unstuck is to not get overwhelmed by this big thing, but to break it down into small tasks, smaller steps, find a way around where you're stuck and get to the end. The M is manage mindset, positive and growth mindset on challenges and setbacks. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. You have to be self-aware. What are the things that make you feel like you're paralyzed and cannot move? And most importantly is view failures as learning opportunities because that promotes a growth mindset. But you can have all this. You can have faced fear. You have figured out how to trick your brain, but you have to be bold. You have to speak up, share your ideas, advocate for yourself. You have to be confident even when you're feeling uncertain, and then you have to take calculated risks. Being bold is the number one way for you to achieve a six-figure income, because you have to actually raise your hand. You have to submit, click on submit on that resume or LinkedIn little call to action that says you want to get a job. Leadership. Leadership. We talked about it in the skill set. Look, it rears its head again. You have to take ownership of your actions and decisions. You have to use your vision to inspire yourself and others. You have to figure out what type of leader you are, because by leading yourself, you're able to lead others. And then, most important of all this, we could have vision. We can be bold. We can have managed our mindset. We understand how to get unstuck. We know how to face our fear. The most important thing, well, I've said everything is important, but none of this works unless you execute. Execute. Translate your plans and intentions into tangible actions. You have to execute. So when we talk about the M in SMS mindset, we're talking about not only do we have the skill set that we've learned, we have the mindset that accompanies it. And that's why it's important to have that. And then the third is strategy. You know, over the years, what I've seen is people being very skilled at what they do, perhaps even having the mindset that's required for them to earn this six-figure incomes and to work in the best places in the world. But when it comes to talking about it, that's where they fail. So you have to be very strategic in talking about yourself, your accomplishments, with the thought that the other person doesn't want to get to know you as a person. They want to get to know what value you can provide to them. So how do you do it? You talk about your landings. What did you land? What have you landed? You talk about your impact. What was the impact? You talk about how you did it, and then you talk about why you did it. This is counterintuitive because we've always been taught to say, well, here was the business problem. Then I went to all these people and I did A, B, C, D. And then I came back and figured out what the impact was. And then I landed this. By the time the person reads the first two lines, they're either ready to move on to the next candidate or they're bored with you. So make sure your first thing is what you land. Half of getting a job, getting promoted, etc., comes from already doing the work. You've done the work, you've gone to school, you've done all this. The other half is in telling the story, as evidenced by the landings. A lot of people forget about telling the story. You see, it's not about you, it's about your value worth. What does the other person, the other organization, the other company, the other client perceive about the value you can create for them? So if you learn nothing on this Facebook Live, if there's nothing you take away from this, well, if there's one thing you take away from this, is to talk about your value worth more than you talk about your self-worth. So here's an example. You know, I was connected to someone via LinkedIn through a comment that I saw, and then I clicked on their profile and look at how they talk about themselves on the left. Led planning and execution for 1.5 billion global cloud ERP transformation impacting 5,000 plus applications across 26 countries. Delivered 100 million in cost savings and a 70% increase in cloud-based revenue through strategic planning and execution. Built a global team of 250 plus across product engineering, security, data, and security. So immediately, they're just giving you landing after landing after landing. And by looking at this, I'm like, wow, I need this person. You know, look at the sentence on the left. Program managed an 18-month strategic service delivery program consisting of 5 projects that reduced intervals by 29%, resulting in 12 million revenue acceleration and 2.3 million savings. Reduced percentage of escalated customer cases by 75% by the end of Q3. This is what I need all of us to be able to articulate. Obviously, numbers are different depending on your level and the work you do, but being able to focus on what it is that you do. And so the strategy is in being able to articulate in a way that promotes your value worth even more than it promotes your self worth. There'll be time for self worth discussions after you've been hired. The first thing is value worth. So on this slide, I remember, I'll tell you, those of you who've spoken to me and have asked me about my journey to Google, you will know that I got rejected twice. Finally got approved. Well, not approved, but I was hired after the third round. So basically, over 3 years, first year interviews, flew me to California, did interviews there, rejected. Second time, 6 months later, sent out there, interviews, rejected. Third time, 9 months later, reached out to me, did interviews, and then, there was a certain period of time before I actually got hired. But in looking at the first three, or each of those instances, number one, number two, and number three, not much changed in terms of my skill set. Not much changed in terms of my mindset. The thing that changed the most was how I strategically articulated what it was that I had accomplished. So I stopped talking about myself and started talking more about the value that I had created and that I could create. And I would argue with anyone, especially now that I've been there for several years and I've conducted tons of interviews and been on hiring and promotion panels, is that being able to articulate your value worth in a way that the other person says, I want this person to do the same thing for me, is the difference between those two first rejections and when I finally got through to Google. So, okay, we've gone through this SMS. I think everyone's like maybe excited. People are like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. So here's how I can help. Look, when I say I've worked for 30 years, I have. I mean, from Kenya, I worked in places in a couple of companies in Kenya, came to the US, worked at Union Bank, IXL, Verizon, Google. So altogether, I have 30 years corporate experience. I've led global teams, strategic initiatives. I've done a lot of tech stuff. I've been in program management, process improvement, talent development, performance management, people operations, including creating role profiles like the ones I showed you. And certainly in hiring, decision-making, mentorship, and promotion committees. So I feel, I do think there's a little bit of credibility in some of the stuff that I'm telling you. And then at the same time, I've taught. A lot of I've taught in schools as a guest lecturer, visiting professor. I've done everything from technology to org behavior to research to project management, process improvement courses, both here in the US and I've taught remotely, colleges in Kenya, and I've done guest lecturing there. I do see myself as a sort of like behavioral expert, right? Because of my research interest in employee empowerment. And what that means is, what structures do you put in place so that people feel good about themselves and they feel that they have what they need in order to perform well and have that felt empowerment, which has outcomes such as task satisfaction, job satisfaction, engagement, and ultimately I think that has a correlation with this six-figure incomes we're looking at. And psychological contracts, which means I understand how people view the work, the employer relationship, especially when you feel you're giving so much, you're sweating blood and tears, and you're not getting back what you are seeking from the employer. And so, definitely all of you who are in Wezesha, my community advocacy, a bias to action, and obviously that's a big part of the purpose. And then, it's interesting in terms of training, technical training. I've done everything from psychology to internet, to telecommunications to organizational behavior. So I've really tried to be well rounded. And even throughout this, I mean, when I think about my early career, I did every single cert there was, from Cisco to Microsoft to Checkpoint, cybersecurity, all these things that certifications that are thrown around. And even then, what I learned was, even with all the technical training, what I learned was there's this special sauce, and this special sauce seems to be tied to this project management thing, to process improvement and Lean Six Sigma, and most importantly, to being very strategic with your network and the people you talk to and the things that you do, so that you can articulate your value. And so being able to be in the board of directors of the biggest technology association in the Southeast, being able to be on panel discussions to learn what these employers are looking for in people like you, to learn what these policymakers are looking for in people like you, to hear the voices of the college students, their dreams and aspirations, and where they want to go to improve their lives and those of their families. That has helped me be able to come up with, you know what, there's something I can do here. So I have a lot of experience with interviews, thousands of students that I've taught, promotion sessions, meaning helping people get promoted, ton of rewards and recognition for things that I've accomplished both at work and the community, talent development. You know, I've mentored hundreds of people from multiple companies, including, you know, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, um, Apple, and Meta, right? Board seats, several panel discussions. So, and then researching, rinse, repeat, and just talking with you all on Rosesha Wednesday. And I think the biggest takeaway is you need to move from executor to leader. You need to move from being an executor to being a leader in order to get those six-figure incomes that you're looking for. And I can help. I understand the special sauce. SMS, skill set, mindset, and strategy. And the reason why I'm packaging it this way is because I know a lot of people who train you, who work on the skill set, and that's perfect. I know a lot of people who work on the mindset, and that's perfect. And then there's those people you can sit down with and go through and learn how to enhance your LinkedIn profile, be able to create that career journey for yourself. And there's people who do that. But what I'm saying, what I'm arguing is that you don't get the benefit you're seeking unless you do all the three of them together: the skill set, the mindset, and the strategy. But the first thing you need to do is to upskill. You need to figure out which of these value add skills you can add to your arsenal. You already have what you need in terms of qualifications from college. What, which one of these, if not all, can you add to your arsenal? So when you go for an interview, you say, and someone asks you, yeah, tell me what value you're providing to me. You can say, well, you know, the 285 construction that happened 2 years ago that expanded, you know, the lanes from 3 lanes to 5 lanes? Yeah, I was one of the project managers who was able to make sure that that infrastructure project was completed on time and on budget, so that people could be able to go out, go on vacation, go to work, go on vacation with their families. I was the one who helped with that project. Or you do process improvement and you say, yeah, you know how it used to take us 5 weeks, sometimes even 6 or 7, to apply for a passport, to renew our passport? And remember how you had to go to the post office with this piece of paper, fill it out, stand in a queue for hours, and then you pay and then wait 5 weeks to get a passport? Well, I was on the team that recognized the need to make that more automated, and I was on the team that leaned out the process so that someone is now able to apply to renew the passport online and get it in 6 days. True story. I got my passport renewed in 6 days, and I thank whoever it was that thought about that process improvement and ran the project that did that. What about leadership? Yeah, you know how, people are the most important resources that we have. And my job as a leader is to be able to understand their strengths, to be able to communicate the vision for them, be able to mobilize them and motivate them so that we can go in, accelerate revenue, and reduce expenses. Leadership. And then obviously there's the strategy of being able to look at the resume that you have, to review it for clarity, to look for impact, to lead with landings, to actually conduct a brief mock interview, because most people go in and they're asked the standard question, tell me something about yourself. And they're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? So they conduct a brief mock interview. So I can help you. I can help you get job ready skills with a no BS approach. No bloated schedule, no boring sessions, no bureaucratic stuff. Can increase your value, worth, and earning power. I can give you clear, concise, and actionable training. I'm an educator, right? Tailored with real world examples. So what that means is it's not just theoretical. It's when you learn this skill, how do you articulate it to enhance your value, worth? And you know what exhausts me is when I see all those career development courses that say for 1,200 12-week course, and it's bloated with all these things, half of which you'll never remember, 90% of which you'll never use. So short, intense, respecting your time and delivering genuine value. And what I've done is I've created like flexible options so that you don't feel like you have to do everything, but then there's a benefit if you do everything. And by the way, as a call to action, I'm ready to start as soon as next week. And here is the package that I'm presenting. So some of you may just want to interview resume prep. Sit down with you, figure out what's the strategy, what are you looking for, what income are you looking for, what companies are you targeting. Let's talk about it and be strategic so you know exactly what to do in order to get that six-figure income for the company for which you're interviewing. Then I have what I'm calling the gold package, and this is where you actually choose, right? Do you already have a program management certificate and skill set, and now you're looking to learn about Lean Six Sigma, get a yellow belt equivalent, learn about the DMAIC process, and be able to actually lean out a process? Or are you okay with those two, and now you really want to understand leadership, empathetic leadership, we want adaptive leadership, whatever type of leadership style? Talk about performance management, HR, all those things that make you a better leader. You can choose one. I've created a platinum package, which means you choose any two, and I have a group session where we'll go up through interview prep, resume prep, networking. How do I get people who I can reach out to be able to get these roles that I'm looking for? And then finally, I have the diamond. The diamond is where you take all three sessions: program management, process improvement, leadership essentials. And if you sign up for Diamond, you get an individual session with me where we do interview, resume prep, and like preparing you for your next role. So it's really simple. It's flexible packages: silver, gold, platinum, diamond. And this is my offer to you as I think about what are those skill sets that are required, what's that mindset that's required, what's that strategy that's required for you to get that six-figure income. Each of these courses are 4 weeks, 3 hours, 4 weeks. So you have 12 hours total in terms of session, fully focused on increasing your value worth. If you're interested at all, just go to wezeshaacademy.com, click on that link. There'll be another link to a form that you can fill out just to express interest. I'm not taking your Cash App, I'm not taking your Zelle, I'm not taking your credit card. I just want to see how many people have expressed interest. And you express interest. I start the classes June 10th. Oh, no, not June 10th. I need to change this. I start the classes next week, which is 12, 10, 17th, June 17th, and then end the week after July 4th. So 4 sessions. Tuesday, I have the program management class. Thursday, I have the process improvement. Friday, I have the leadership fundamentals. Obviously, all of this will depend on how many people enroll. 2.5 hours of like true classroom. Then we spend the last 30 minutes recapping. And in between, I'll probably put like focus groups. It all depends on the vibe that we get in this class. But the most important thing is for you to come out 4 weeks from now feeling that you're ready to SMS to get that six-figure income that you're looking for. So again, if this doesn't interest you, cool. I hope this session was good for you. I hope you learned something. But I insist, it is not a one thing that helps you increase your value worth. It is at least 3 things. The skill set, and by skill set, I mean value added skill set beyond what you've learned or you're technically trained at in school. It's the mindset and being able to fumble your way through whatever it is that you need to go through to get that income that you're looking for. And then there's strategy, being able to be very strategic. Who do I network with? How do I articulate my value worth? Where do I go to, and what roles do I apply for? Sorry, I must say this. I know I'm over time, but I must say this. I refer a lot of people, because my desire, my dream is to have every single Kenyan who is qualified to work at Google. I want us to fill rooms. I want people to go to their Google Meet for a meeting on this very high profile complex project, and 60% of the people are Kenyans and 90% of the people in that meeting are Africans. That's my desire, and I know we can do it. And so I think it's so important, because a lot of people I refer, they don't have in their LinkedIn profile, on their resume, the articulation of what we need in order to measure their value worth to the standard that we want to hire them. And what that means is you could have done all the education, you could have done everything to get this role, but the way you articulate it, you are talking more about yourself than what value you can provide to someone else. That's why the last part, being very strategic in how we do it, is extremely important. Today was not Wezesha Wednesday. Well, today was Wezesha Wednesday, but on a Thursday. Sorry I didn't show myself because I was presenting this. I hope this was valuable to you. If it was, jot something in the comments. If this is something you're interested in, go to wezeshaacademy.com and just register. Not register, wezeshaacademy.com and just express interest. Otherwise, you know how to reach me on Facebook, on email, on whatever, WhatsApp. You can always reach me. Thank you all, and have a blessed day.